In this lesson, we're going to look at using the text path to create a shaped text to go on our layout. This is really fun, and you can see that I used a quote on mine. You could use any kind of text you wanted to, song lyrics, lines from a book, anything that you want to put on for your background. So let's get started. So now we're going to get started creating the text path in Silhouette Studio since we have our laptop and our Cameo ready to go. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw a circle because that's the shape that I'm going to use to add my text around. So I'm going to click the little circle icon here, and I want to make my circle about 8.5 inches. So I'm going to hold my shift button down just so I can keep that circular shape. And your Silhouette Studio software is going to tell you your size. You can see here that it's sizing as I go. And so now I'm around 8.5 inches here. So I'm just going to get that a little closer. And I want to click the arrow right here because if I don't do that, I'm still set on the circle tool, and you can see it draws another circle if I use my mouse. So we're going to click on the little arrow tool here, and I'm going to get rid of my circle there. So now what I want to do is I'm going to get my circle kind of lined up on the page where I want it to be, because this is going to be the guide for my text is going to cut. So if I don't have it lined up in the Silhouette Studio software, it's not going to line up on my paper in the right place that I want it. And if you want to measure a little bit closer, you can turn your grid on, and you can go under View and do Show Grid. So that kind of helps you to line everything up. You can just kind of move it along just to get your circle kind of centered in the page, because that's where I'm going to cut, is in the center. And I don't need that anymore there, so I'm just going to go back and under View, and I'm going to do the Show Grid and click it off. So now what I want to do is, like I said, I used a quote on my page, so I'm going to type that quote in, and I'm just going to click on the little text tool here on the left-hand side, and I want to use all caps, so I'm going to turn my caps lock on, and my quote, or the quote I'm using says, let's see, my caps didn't turn on, there we go, and I'm going to do, and I quote, and I just did the little colon here, and my quotation marks, and then take my picture, let's see, mommy. And it doesn't matter if it goes down on separate lines like that, because once we pull it over to our circle, it's going to all separate into one line. And I actually want to change the font, so I'm going to highlight over this, and I'm going to look over here and see what font that I want to use. And let's see, we could do Arial Black, and that's going to kind of just make it a little bit wider. So you can kind of have an easier cut when you send it to your machine. So now what we want to do, we want to leave it just like this. We're going to click off to get the text unhighlighted. We want this little icon right here, or the little plus icon on the side of our text, because we're going to use that, and we're going to pull it over here up against the circle. And when we do that, it's going to snap to the circle shape. Now you can see that our text is in a circle around the shape. But we do have a little problem right here. We have a little bit of extra space. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. We're just going to highlight over our text again using our mouse, and we want to go all the way around. So if we look over here in our text style box, we can see that our text size right here is set to 72. So that's why we're having a gap right there, because our text is not quite big enough to go all the way around. So I'm just going to play around with the size here. I'm going to bump it up to 80. And you can see that that kind of gets it right there. Now I did forget to add my other quotation marks, so I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to put that right there, and it's kind of perfect. It just kind of lines up all the way around your circle there. And so what I did on my layout is I actually created 3 more layers of that text. So if you want to do that again, you can just get rid of, or we'll see, we can move our circle. Oh, no, it moves everything, so we don't want to do that. We're going to keep that one there. We're just going to draw a new circle inside this one. And we want to have it a little bit smaller because we're going to have that text come in right there. So I'm going to move this one just to see how much room I have to play with, because you don't want it too close, because you have to have room for your letters in the title. So that should be good right there. And so then we're going to line that up so we can bring our text over to that. So for this one, I'm going to type the words again so that I can bring it over to go along that text path. So I'm just going to type that same thing that I had from earlier. Take my picture, mommy. And I always do that with my T and U. Okay, so now we can bring this over. Oh, first we want to go back and change that font to match our other font. So we used Arial Black, so we just want to scroll down to that. So now we have those two that match. And if you do this and your little icon is not showing, you can see now that I don't have the little plus symbol right here. All you have to do is just double click that box and it's going to bring it up for you. And so then we can grab our little icon and we want to make sure that we get it on the right circle. You can see that it tried to pop to that first one. So we just want to bring it out right here. All right, and now we can see that this one's a little bit too big. I'm missing part of my word. So we're going to go in and we're actually going to go down a size on this one. So we're going to go, I can't get my A in, so we'll take care of him in just a minute. We're going to make this a little smaller. It's on 72, so we'll try 62. And that's still a little bit too big, so let's try 56. There we go. And my A didn't catch, so now I can go back and grab it. And we'll go maybe up to like 57 and see what that changes to. So there we go. We've got that where we want it. And so if you wanted to, you can continue to do that same process to go in toward the center, but we'll just stop right there and we're going to add our paper to our mat and we're going to send it to the machine to see what it looks like when we cut it. So I'm just going to add my pattern paper here and open up the Cameo and load our mat in. So we do our load cut mat. And then we want to go to our silhouette settings. We're cutting pattern paper, so we want to change this to make sure that our cut settings are on pattern paper. And we're on textured cardstock right now, so we're just going to move that up to the pattern paper setting and click it. We want to check our blade and make sure that it's set to 3, and it is. So we can add it back in. And now we're going to send to cut our text. So now we have our paper off the mat, and you can see here how our cut looks. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back side of this, and I'm going to layer it over the white cardstock because I want something behind these letters, just to have something behind to make it solid. So I'm just going to add my adhesive around the 4 sides of the paper and go all the way around this edge. And like I said, you could use a colored cardstock if you wanted to, or maybe another pattern paper that has kind of a subtle pattern, nothing too busy. So I just want to get this lined up with my cardstock so it's just behind. So now you can see how your text path looks. And if you wanted to, you could go and add some machine stitching around this, just to kind of help secure it and just to add some texture also. And so once you have this, you can kind of start building your page. I actually added my photo kind of to the center and used kind of a little, just a little layer behind here as like a little mat to differentiate my photo from the background paper. So I kind of added it a little off center, just to the side. And I didn't add any letter stickers or thickers because this is actually my title around the page with the quote. And if you wanted to, you could add some embellishments around. I like to add kind of things near my photo, so if you wanted to take out a couple of things just for some contrast and dimension. And since this is about taking a picture, you could add the little camera embellishment. That would be great to add to the side. And I like to kind of follow the pattern if I have something on my layout. So something like buttons or brads or enamel dots are fun to add. Let's see if I can get these out. So if you wanted to, you could take some of these little wood buttons and you could go in and just kind of add these around your text path title. And I like to add some to the center of the letters that are kind of open. You can also add some just kind of around here, around the text path. And you can add as many or as little of these as you like. And so you can just see how it looks. And then my finished layout, I kept it kind of simple because I wanted the quote and the text path to be kind of the main thing on the layout. So you can see that I added some of the wood buttons and my photo and just a cork embellishment, and I also added some enamel dots just to keep that kind of circular embellishing going with the text path title.